Meera's mother cried at the vidai like she was allowed to. Not the loud kind of crying, no wailing, no drama that neighbors could repeat, but a controlled, steady leak that made her kajal blur into thin rivers. Her hands didn't stop moving, though. She kept adjusting Meera's dupatta, smoothing the edge of her red sari, fixing what could be fixed. As if neatness could protect a daughter. Smile, her aunt hissed softly. People are watching. Meera smiled because she had been trained for it. Her cheeks hurt from 2 days of smiling. Her spine hurt from sitting upright. Her feet hurt from the kind of shoes women wore for weddings, beautiful, delicate, punishing. Her father stood behind her mother, quite in the way he became when he was sure he had done something great. He didn't cry. He looked past Meera's face, past the crowd, as though he could already see the foreign land on the other side of the air. America, he said once, to no one in particular. Our Meera is going to America. The word moved through the room like incense. America meant clean streets and big houses. America meant a son-in-law who said, Mom, and Dad, in English, as if the language itself was a promotion. America meant relatives who had spent years treating Meera's father like a minor character, would suddenly speak to him with respect. Meera had a master's degree in English. She taught at a small college. She loved her students. She loved the way language could hold something gentle without breaking it. But she had also watched her mother count years on her fingers. Meera is 27, Meera is 28, Meera is still at home. She had listened to cousins who got married at 22 and now visited with babies and superiority. She had endured conversations that began like concern and ended like threat. What will people say? Every girl adjusts. A good man is hard to find. Don't be too picky. Rohan looked like the kind of man parents wanted. Clean-shaven, polite, soft-spoken in front of elders. He had a job in New Jersey, in IT, everyone said, as if that explained everything. He had touched Meera's mother's feet without being asked and smiled as if goodness was effortless for him. Meera had tried to ask practical questions. When will the paperwork happen? Will I be able to work there? What visa will I be on? Her mother had squeezed her arm too tightly. Don't ask too much. It looks bad. He is already doing so much. America is not small thing. Meera swallowed her questions the way women swallowed hot tea, burning, careful, pretending it didn't hurt. On the wedding night, while the photographer packed his lights and aunties carried away plates of sweets, Rohan leaned toward her and murmured, Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Meera wanted to believe him. Belief, she had learned, was sometimes a choice you made because you couldn't afford the alternatives. The first time Meera saw the apartment in New Jersey, she thought of the word temporary. Not because it was small, she had lived in hostels with less, but because it had the feeling of a waiting room. A brown couch that sagged in the middle. Curtains that didn't reach the window sill. A dining table with one chair. The air smelled faintly of fried food and something chemical, like cleaning solution that had given up. You will like it, Rohan said, too quickly. Meera looked for the mandir corner her mother had insisted she would make in America. There wasn't even a shelf free. But your parents said, she began. Rohan's smile didn't change, but the temperature in the room did. My parents say many things, he said. America is expensive. We start small. Start small. Meera nodded. Starting small sounded reasonable. On the second day, she asked about her social security number. On the third day, she asked about her status. Rohan rubbed his temple dramatically. Not now. My company is busy. I'm busy. I told you, it takes time. But I'm here as your wife, she said. We got married in India, isn't? He cut her off with a laugh that wasn't funny. Do you think America cares about your India wedding? We have to do things properly here. Relief flared in her chest. Then let's do it, she said. Tell me what to fill. I can. Enough, he snapped. Meera froze. Then he softened his voice immediately, like a man flipping a switch. Meera, relax. You are new. Don't create stress. Just settle. Settle. Adjust. The old words had followed her across the ocean. That night he slept with his back to her. Meera lay awake listening to the building sounds, water rushing through pipes, a door slamming, someone laughing in the hallway. She pictured her mother in Punjab, folding the wedding sari, telling neighbors, yes, she reached safely. Yes, he is good boy. Meera stared at the ceiling until her eyes burned. The first episode didn't look like violence at all. It looked like normal married life, just slightly stricter. Rohan suggested she shouldn't go outside alone until she learns the area. He said it like care. It's not like India, he warned. Here people are strange. He said she didn't need her own phone because you're always with me anyway. He said she didn't need her own bank account because we are husband-wife, what is yours is mine. He said she didn't need to talk to neighbors because they will interfere. Meera believed him, because her mother had also said the same things, just in different words. Then control began to show its teeth. One morning, Meera put on lipstick, light pink, the kind she wore to college. Rohan looked up from his coffee and stared. Why are you doing makeup? He asked. For myself, she said softly. It makes me feel. Feel what? His tone sharpened. You want attention? From who? There are men everywhere here. It's just lipstick, Meera said, confused. Rohan stood, walked over, and with his thumb, wiped the lipstick off her mouth hard enough that her skin stung. Don't dress like this, he said quietly. You are my wife now. Meera sat still, shocked more by the casualness than the pain. He went back to his coffee like nothing happened. Later, when she was washing dishes, she noticed her lower lip had a small cut. She told herself it was an accident. That was how it began. Little cuts in her confidence, little bruises on her voice. Rohan came home one evening smelling of alcohol. Not drunk enough to fall, but drunk enough to be bold. He looked at the dinner and frowned. This is it. Meera's stomach tightened. I made dal, roti, sabji. Dal again. He shoved the plate slightly. The metal clinked against the table. Do you think I work like a dog for dal? Meera's hands went cold. I can make something else. You can't even cook properly, he said, voice rising. In India you were a big teacher, right? Here you are useless. Meera's chest tightened. She felt words in her throat but none came out. Rohan leaned closer. You know what my friends say? They say I married someone too old, too rigid, too Indian. I'm not old, Meera whispered, shame crawling up her neck. Rohan smiled like he had won something. Then prove it. Don't sit like a statue. Meera didn't move. Rohan's face changed. He grabbed her wrist, not so hard that it broke skin, but hard enough that her bones remembered. He pulled her up. Don't embarrass me, he hissed, and then, when Meera's eyes filled, he released her abruptly. She stumbled back, catching herself on the kitchen counter. Her wrist throbbed. Rohan walked away. A minute later, he returned calmer, placing a chocolate bar on the table as if it was peace. Why do you make me angry? He said, almost gently. Just be smart. Meera stared at the chocolate like it was something poisonous dressed in sweetness. That night he apologized. Not fully. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you. More like, I'm stressed. You know how my job is. You should understand. Meera nodded because her survival depended on nodding. The next weeks were a cycle. Episode 1. He checked her closet and mocked her clothes. This looks cheap. Then, your father gave so much dowry and still you look like this. The sentence was meant to injure two generations at once. Episode 2. He hid her passport, for safety. Meera panicked. He watched her panic and then said, smiling, relax. If you behave, everything is safe. Episode 3. He accused her of wasting electricity and unscrewed a light bulb from the living room lamp. When she protested, he said, in my house, I decide. Episode 4. He insisted she eat after him, like tradition, but in America it felt less like tradition and more like punishment. If she ate before him, he would glare and slam cupboards. Episode 5. One night he came home furious, eyes wild. I lost money, he said. You don't understand what I'm dealing with. Meera didn't even know he was dealing with money problems. He never shared details, only blame. He threw a glass into the sink. It shattered. Meera flinched. A shard flew and nicked her finger. Blood bloomed. Rohan stared at her finger, then at her face, as if deciding whether to feel guilt. Instead, he said, stop bleeding everywhere, and tossed a napkin at her. Meera went to the bathroom and wrapped her finger with trembling hands. She stared at herself in the mirror and realized something that scared her more than the cut. Her eyes looked smaller, like the woman inside her was shrinking. The worst episodes were the ones that made her doubt her own reality. Rohan would explode, then deny it. Don't act like a victim, he would say the next day. You exaggerate everything. Meera would look at the bruise on her wrist and wonder, did I imagine the grab? Did I deserve it? When she cried, he would mock her. So dramatic. This is why women should stay in India. Here you get ideas. Once, he blocked the door when she tried to step outside for air. Move, she said, voice shaking. He didn't. He smiled, slow and cruel. Where will you go? You have no phone, no papers, no car. You can't even speak properly here. You will get lost and then the police will pick you up. And then what? They'll send you back. And your parents will die of shame. He didn't touch her that time. He didn't need to. The cage was invisible, but real. Meera backed away. Rohan let her pass only after she whispered, okay. One Sunday, he took her to an Indian grocery store, and Meera felt briefly alive, surrounded by languages she understood and spices she recognized. She wanted to linger near the women choosing okra, hear them bargain and laugh. But Rohan stayed close, always close, as if she might run away between aisles of lentils. At checkout, the cashier, a middle-aged Gujarati woman, smiled at Meera. First time here. Meera smiled back, desperate. Yes. The woman's eyes flickered to Rohan's face and back to Meera. She didn't ask more. She just said, gently, welcome. Take care. That night, Rohan accused Meera of flirting. You smile too much, he said. It was normal, Meera whispered. He stepped toward her. You think I'm stupid? Before she could answer, he shoved her shoulder, not enough to throw her across the room, but enough to remind her that her body was not fully her own in this house. Meera hit the wall softly, more shocked than hurt. Her heart hammered. She tasted metal in her mouth, like fear. Rohan stared at her, breathing hard. Then he ran a hand through his hair and said, exhausted, look what you make me do. And then, with the calmness of a man cleaning up a mess, he said, don't give me a reason again. Meera nodded. She hated herself for nodding. The message came on a rainy evening. Rohan left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. It buzzed. Meera glanced automatically, expecting his boss. A name flashed, Tanya. The preview, miss you. Last night was stupid. Are you coming tomorrow or not? Meera's stomach dropped. The little red heart felt like a knife. When Rohan came out, hair wet, towel around his waist, Meera held up the phone with shaking hands. Who is Tanya? She asked. Rohan didn't pretend confusion. He didn't even look surprised. He looked annoyed, like she was interrupting his schedule. You went through my phone, he said. It came. I saw, Meera whispered. Rohan laughed. So what? Meera's voice cracked. So what? I'm your wife. Wife, he scoffed. Here? You don't even exist here. You are not on anything. No status. No number. You are nothing on paper. The sentence hit her like cold water. So file it, Meera said, trembling but desperate. File the paperwork. Make me exist. Rohan's eyes hardened. He stepped closer, voice low. If you create drama, I will tell your parents you are difficult. I will tell them you can't adjust. Meera swallowed. He leaned in so close she could smell shampoo and control. Do you want your father to beg me? Because he will. Your mother will cry. They will ask me to forgive you. You know why? Because they already spent so much. And they will not want to lose face. Meera's throat tightened. Shame and fear wrestled inside her. Rohan straightened, satisfied. Be smart. Stay quiet. You have food, roof, everything. What else do you want? Meera wanted to say, dignity. Oxygen. Herself. Instead she said nothing. That night she locked herself in the bathroom and sat on the cold floor, biting her cheek to stop sound. In her head she repeated, I am not nothing. I am not nothing. The next morning, she called her mother anyway. Not to complain. Not to ask to come back. Just to hear a voice that remembered her before this. Her mother answered, cheerful. Meera beta. How is America? Meera held the phone like it was fragile. I'm okay. Her mother didn't hear the pause. She was already in celebration mode. Your father told your chacha, your bua, everyone. They are so proud. One neighbor asked, is she really in America? And I said yes, my daughter is in America. Meera's chest tightened. Beta, adjust, her mother added casually, like seasoning. In foreign land you have to be wise. Husband is everything there. Meera went silent. Her mother lowered her voice. If he says anything harsh, ignore. Men have stress. You are educated. You can manage. Meera stared at the wall. She felt something inside her crack, not fully, but enough for light to enter. It wasn't only Rohan. It was the whole machinery that told women to endure until they disappeared. She ended the call politely. Afterward she stood at the sink for a long time, hands submerged in cold water, as if trying to wash away the feeling of being offered as sacrifice. One afternoon, while Rohan was at work and Meera had finished chores too early, she stood at the window watching people outside, women pushing strollers, teenagers with backpacks, an old man walking a dog that looked like a small cloud. Everyone moved with purpose, even the dog. Meera felt like a ghost watching the living. She remembered walking to her college in India with a notebook pressed against her chest, hair loose, mind full of poems and deadlines. She remembered students calling her, ma'am. She remembered her own laugh. She found a crumpled receipt in Rohan's jacket pocket, Jersey City Public Library. The next time he left, Meera wrapped her dupatta tight and walked out. The library smelled like paper and quiet. It felt like stepping into a temple where no one cared who you were married to. She wondered until she found a shelf labeled ESL Citizenship Immigration. Her heartbeat quickened. On a notice board, Conversation Circle, Practice English. All welcome. All welcome. She joined. Once a week became twice, hidden carefully between Rohan's routines. In the circle she met women from everywhere, Mexico, Haiti, China, Egypt, who stumbled over words and laughed anyway. One day an older Indian woman joined, wearing a sweater and scarf. Silver hair tied back. Eyes sharp with kindness. She introduced herself as Shanti. After the session Shanti touched Meera's arm. Punjab, she asked softly in Punjabi. Meera's throat tightened. Yes. Shanti studied her face the way older women can, as if reading what you don't say. You have papers? Shanti asked. Meera shook her head. Shanti sighed, heavy with experience. He promised. He delayed. Now he controls. Meera's head snapped up. How do you know? Shanti's gaze softened. Because I have seen it. Many girls. Families hungry for foreign life. They sell daughters' safety for a passport dream. Meera's eyes filled. Words spilled, passport hidden, phone controlled, Tanya, nothing on paper, the shove, the broken glass, the door blocked. Shanti listened without interrupting. When Meera finished, Shanti squeezed her hand. You are not nothing, she said firmly. And you are not alone. Meera's voice trembled. What can I do? I can't work. I can't drive. I have no phone. Shanti nodded. Practical. First, we get you a phone. Second, we get information. Third, if you need, we get you out. Out felt impossible. Shanti wrote numbers and addresses on a small paper, folded it twice. Hide it. You don't have to call today, but you must have choices. Meera took the paper like oxygen. Rohan noticed the change before Meera did. It wasn't dramatic. She still cooked, still cleaned, still performed, but something in her stopped begging. When he snapped, she didn't collapse as quickly. When he threatened, her eyes didn't flood with panic. She began answering with fewer words. That made him angrier. One night he came home furious, face tight. Why is the house smelling like spices? He demanded. You like spices, Meera said carefully. He slammed a cabinet door. Don't talk back. I wasn't. Rohan grabbed her arm and yanked her closer. This time his fingers dug in hard enough that she gasped. Do you want trouble? He hissed. Meera's heart pounded. Then, quietly, she said, let go. Rohan blinked as if he hadn't expected resistance. His grip tightened for half a second, just long enough to prove he could. Then he shoved her away. Meera stumbled, catching herself on the counter. Her elbow hit the edge, pain flashed bright. Rohan stared at her like she had betrayed him by having a body that bruised. Then his face shifted into sweetness. Meera, he said, suddenly soft. Why are you making this a big issue? Come. Sit. He offered water. Then he offered food. Then he offered a new scarf the next day, like a man offering compensation. Meera accepted the scarf because survival was complicated. But that night she looked at the bruise on her arm and decided something with quite certainty. This will not be my whole life. She called the hotline from the library bathroom, hands trembling. A woman's voice answered softly. Are you safe to talk? Meera swallowed. I don't know. We can help you make a plan, the voice said. You don't have to decide everything today. They asked practical questions. Did he monitor her? Did he ever hit her? Did she have a safe time to leave? Did she have documents? Money? Mira answered honestly. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't minimize. At the end, the woman said, "If you need to leave quickly, pack essentials. Documents if you can. If not, you still leave. Your life matters more than paperwork." Mira wrote the shelter address in her notebook, disguised between grammar notes like a secret poem. The leaving happened on a Tuesday, because Tuesday was the most ordinary day. Rohan kissed her forehead in the morning, as if he was a loving husband. "Don't go anywhere," he said, half-joking. Mira smiled. "Where would I go?" He laughed and left. Mira waited until she heard his footsteps fade down the hall. Then she opened the closet and pulled out her small suitcase from India. The airline tag still hung from the handle like a stubborn memory. She packed fast and silent. 2 sets of clothes. Degrees and certificates. The shawl her mother had given her. The folded paper with numbers. Cash she had hidden over weeks, small bills from grocery change, $20 Shanti had insisted she take, for emergency. She stared at the framed wedding photo, Mira in red, Rohan smiling like he had won something. For a moment she almost took it. Proof she had tried. Then she remembered, a photo cannot protect you. She left it behind. Outside, the winter air slapped her awake. She walked to the bus stop, neutral face, suitcase rolling softly. On the bus she pressed her forehead to the cold window and watched the city move past, laundromats, coffee shops, children in bright jackets. The world looked indifferent, and that indifference felt like freedom. At the shelter, the front door was locked. A woman bussed her in. The place was clean, bright, busy. Women drinking tea. A toddler laughing. A volunteer handing out snacks. It didn't feel like shame. It felt like survival, organized, steady. "You are safe here," the woman said. "Do you want water?" Mira nodded. Her knees felt weak. They gave her a small room with a bed and a lamp. Mira sat on the bed, staring at her suitcase as if it might vanish. She waited for guilt to crush her. Instead she felt something unexpected. Quiet. No keys thrown. No door slammed. No footsteps that belonged to him. That night Mira cried until her chest ached, not because she missed Rohan, but because she realized how long she had lived without air. The rebuilding was not cinematic. There was no dramatic courtroom moment, no relatives suddenly understanding, no instant justice. There were forms. Waiting rooms. Doubt. Nights when Mira woke sweating, convinced she heard Rohan's voice in the hallway. The shelter connected her to a legal clinic. The lawyer listened carefully and said words Mira had never heard spoken to her with such respect. "What you went through matters." They explained options, protection orders, immigration-related help, records, resources. Some required proof. Some required time. The point wasn't that Mira would win. The point was that Mira had choices. Shanti visited with parathas wrapped in foil. "Eat," she ordered. "Strength is also food." Mira volunteered at the library officially. A staff member helped her apply for a part-time job once her situation allowed. She practiced speaking without apologizing. She learned to say no without adding sorry. One evening, a child at the shelter called her teacher. Mira's chest tightened. The word felt like a lost identity returning. Weeks turned into months. The first time Mira held her own debit card, her fingers trembled. The first time she received a paycheck with her name printed neatly, she stared at it as if it might vanish. Exist. On paper. In life. When a small studio apartment became available through a transitional program, Mira walked into it cautiously. It smelled of fresh paint and possibility. A window with pale sunlight. A tiny kitchen. A closet big enough for her suitcase to finally rest. The lease papers felt heavy in her hands. "You can take your time," the case manager said. Mira picked up the pen. Her signature looked shaky at first, then steadied, as if her hand remembered who it belonged to. When she signed, something inside her unclenched. That evening she arranged her belongings, degrees on a shelf, shawl folded on the bed, notebook of quotes beside the lamp. She framed an old photo of herself in India, standing in front of a blackboard, chalk dust on her fingertips. Proof of who she had been before marriage tried to erase her. She made tea and drank it slowly, alone in her own space. Her phone rang. The name on the screen twisted her stomach. Ma. Mira stared at it. She imagined her mother's voice, worried, angry, pleading, ashamed, proud, knotted together. She imagined her father saying, "Think of our reputation." She imagined relatives hungry for gossip. She breathed in, breathed out. She answered. "Mira." Her mother's voice cracked instantly. "Where are you? Rohan is shouting. He says you ran away. He says you are characterless." Mira closed her eyes. The old fear tried to rise. The old guilt tried to tighten like rope. She didn't let it. "Ma," Mira said softly, "I'm safe." Her mother sobbed. "Why you did this? People, your father, everyone is asking." Mira looked around her apartment. The quiet, the sunlight, the signed lease papers on the table. Her own name on them. "I was not safe there," she said. "He controlled everything. He hurt me. He lied. He told me I was nothing." A silence thick as years. Then her mother whispered, like an old instruction. "Beta. Marriage is adjustment. Everyone has to adjust." Mira's throat tightened, but her voice stayed calm. "Not this. Not losing myself. Not becoming nothing." Her mother cried, softer now. "What will happen?" Mira watched the sky outside her window, wide and indifferent and free. "I don't know everything," Mira admitted. "But I know one thing. I'm safe. And I'm not coming back to that." Her mother's breath shook. "Mira." Mira held the phone steadily. "Ma, you can be sad. You can be angry. But you cannot ask me to return to a cage to protect people's pride." There was a long silence, the sound of an old world cracking. Finally her mother whispered, "Are you eating?" The question was so ordinary, it sounded like love trying to find a way back. Mira laughed softly through tears. "Yes," she said. "I'm eating." "Warm clothes." "Yes." Another pause. "Beta. Your father will shout. But I want you to be okay." Mira swallowed. "I will be," she said. "I already am. A little." After she hung up, Mira sat on the floor with her back against the wall. She didn't feel triumphant. She didn't feel like a heroine. She felt tired, bruised, real. And for the first time since she landed in America, she felt something else too, quiet and stubborn, growing like a seed in winter. She belonged to herself. Outside, streetlights flickered on one by one. Cars passed. Life continued. Mira stood up, washed her cup, and began arranging her small apartment the way she liked, slowly, deliberately, like writing a new paragraph with her own hands. On the hook near the door, her suitcase rested empty. Not as an escape plan anymore. Just proof that she could leave any place that tried to make her nothing. Next day in the library. The lawyer slid the folder back across the table, the corners aligned like they mattered. "I can't promise you a perfect timeline," she said, voice steady, the kind that didn't flinch at other people's fear. "But I can tell you this, your case is moving. We have filed what we need to file, and your work authorization is next. Mira stared. Work permit. Her own voice sounded unfamiliar, like someone else asking for life. The lawyer nodded. Yes. Very soon you will receive it. And when you do, it changes everything. Your own paycheck, your own ID, your own independence. No one will be able to hold you hostage with papers again. Mira blinked hard. So, I can work. You will work, the lawyer corrected gently. You have already survived the hardest part. Now you get to build. Mira looked down at her hands, still carrying the memory of cleaning someone else's house, someone else's anger. She pressed her palm flat on the table, as if anchoring herself to the present. Outside the clinic window, the afternoon traffic moved like it always had. Ordinary. Unbothered. For the first time in a long time, Mira felt her breath come all the way in. Okay, she whispered, not to the lawyer, not to the system, just to herself. And it didn't sound like surrender anymore. It sounded like a beginning.